All right, so I only have an hour allotted for this. My futures class, it's a week. So there's no way that I can go over all the information, okay? But the problem is, I don't know what you want to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over some of the major parts in order to have a solar system, but then I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to go over some of the major parts, what they do, so that way you can start your consideration. What you have as a handout doesn't go over the parts. The number one question everyone asks me is, hey, I'm interested in solar, how much do I need? Now, in order for me to answer that question, we need to know how much, what you see yourself doing, right? So there's several questions that I have on there, okay? Then I go ahead and give you a sticker shock of how much it actually costs. So I'm gonna go over all that. I'll show you how you get your money back, everything else, and actually make more off of it, okay? So it's kind of like, do you consider putting a swimming pool at your house? Oh, I'm sorry, this is Colorado. A sauna, I don't know what do y'all do for leisure? Hot tub, oh, that makes sense. I'm out of my element, I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this. The number one question is, how much do I need? Typically the second question is there ever too much? And I'm gonna tell you that when we look at this, the number one question, how much do I need? My first response is, how much money do you have? Seriously. I mean, if we go back as little as 7 years ago, it still wasn't economical to buy solar. It couldn't, what you had to pay in order to get half of what you're looking for, it was just too cost prohibitive. But in the RV space, we use limited amounts of power, either 30 amps or 50 amps. It's a lot easier for us to attain whatever we want, by using a solar system, okay? It does cost some money, but it is easier. Is there, too much? Because here I have just a couple pictures up here, and guys, solar systems come in all different sizes. A lot of these rigs already come prepped, either prepped for solar or have 1 or 2 panels on there, okay? So I'm gonna start covering solar panels here in just a second, so we'll stop from the top and work our way down. Solar panels, because that's the term that we're using, solar. Now, if we're talking the term solar, we're just talking solar panels, that is just one way to charge a battery, okay? And it's just one way, so when I say solar, I mean solar systems. And the question is, how much do I need? So you see in the picture here, I got 2 different, amounts of solar on there. You have some out here that already have a panel or 2 on there, okay? Now, solar panels, what they do is they take the energy from light and convert that over to electrical energy, photovoltaic, right? The more panels you have, the more potential energy you could draw in. We know the panels are rated based on watts, correct? Yes, no, am I just random stuff? Okay, so we have that out there. Is there a point where we're gonna have too much? Now, I've done both of these installs here. This one right here completely covers everything on top of the RV. There's actually air conditioners underneath that solar system there. Now, anyone asking me if there's too much is like asking me, Todd, is there too much, is that possible for you to eat too much food? No, obviously no, right? You're just not trying hard enough. All right, so here's the thing. When we're looking at the systems, it's the cost benefit that you're looking for, okay? How much does it cost? What's your benefit? You have to ask the right questions. What do you see yourself doing? Some of you may go through the analysis and say, you know what, solar isn't really for me. The cost outlay may not, give me what I'm looking for, okay? So one of those questions I have is, do you see yourself RVing somewhere other than RV parks? Okay, somewhere other than RV. If you are perfectly fine with going to RV parks, the cost outlay, maybe you're not gonna get much back from that, right? Because you're always tethered to the pedestal. And if you're always tethered to the pedestal, 1 or 2 panels up there to keep your batteries charged is all you really need. Okay? I get awfully bored with that. I own an RV park. Well, my family does, right? I'm not against RV parks. But to me, when you see them, you've seen one of them, you've seen all of them. Now, I'm married to a glamper, like a mega glamper, okay? So she doesn't just go to RV parks. She has to go to the RV parks that have the R, the letter R in front of it. Resort. So you pay twice as much for that RV site as anywhere else, but it's the same amount of electricity, same size, right? But they may have a few amenities, okay? I want to go where there's no RV parks. Because once I've done it, everyone else is there. And I'm not anti-human. Actually, I like humans. But I want to go places where I haven't seen before. As a matter of fact, when I got into the RV industry, actually when I met my wife, they were already doing this stuff. It's just, hey Todd, this is what we do. Great. I want nothing to do with RVs. I grew up really poor, and I grew up in a mobile home park. And I equated RVs with mobile homes, right? Just a bunch of trash. I wanted to have a house, right? That was my goal growing up. And she had to educate me. Well, that's a mobile home that stays still. We're in an RV that can move. So if you want to go to the mountains, you go to the mountains. If you want to go to the seashore, right? And she had to take me. And that's when I got hooked. Okay? Because I was able to do those things. Well, of course, staying in RV parks. Here's the thing. The latest census, we have between 10 and 11 million households that own an RV. Do you know how many RV sites are for rent at any one time in the United States? 1 million. That's all that's out there. Now, not all 10 million RV at the same time, right? But there's a limited amount, and there's only in certain areas. Okay, they're typically in central Texas, yes, that's a country, central portion of the United States, and to the east. But to the west, you're going to have more BLM land, and there's a lot more places that you can go. If you could take your power with you, where do you see yourself going? If you want to go to the coast, is it hotter at the coast? Sure it is. So if you see yourself going to the coast, that means you're running air conditioners, right? Unless you're really skinny, where eating is optional to living, right? And you're always cold, even at 80 degrees. Okay, well, then you don't need an air conditioner. But if you're a normal-sized human like me, you need an air conditioner. So you have to consider those things, right? So that's going to draw so much power. So I want you to vision where you're going, right? Where do you see yourself going? Up in the mountains, maybe? Probably don't need it. You're asking a question as I'm mid-sentence. Go ahead. Hold on. Let's wait for the mic.
So, are you able to run the air conditioner facility?
Can you? Yes, absolutely. Not only can I run an air conditioner, I can run all three at the same time. The question is, how much money do you have, right? So, Stephanie, my wife, whenever, I was getting into solar and learning this, she says, Todd, I could care less about it because I don't want to have to think about what I have on. If there's a switch and I want it on, I want to be able to turn it on. I properly interpreted that as, okay, we need to have the biggest system possible. Otherwise, it's not worth it, right? And that's what I did. And then she saw the bill. Now, of course, I did the install myself, so I don't charge myself for that. And she got upset. After the second time I took her out with it, totally worth it. So yeah, you can, right? So that's why I said I led off with, how much money do you have? Now I have a 43-foot toy hauler, right? I can run all three ACs and the microwave at once. And I can run an AC for 11 hours straight at night. I got enough battery power, okay? And it doesn't take up that much room. This is just a standard size battery here. I've got 8 of them. Those are 300 amp hours. So I got enough. It doesn't take up a heck of a lot of room, right? They're actually sticking out further than the inverters. So yes, you can. Okay. Now, does everyone need to start off there? No, not at all. But yes, you can. We're so off topic, but go ahead. This is fun.
Going with your example, how much does all that weigh?
About 500 or 600 pounds. So in your consideration, you need to have a Ford. You got to give up the Dodge. I mean, don't even try it with the Toyota. Okay. About 500 to 600 pounds. Now, here's the thing. In the RV, everything is, there's going to be a give and take, right? We give up space for freedom, right? Now I'm going to start getting into your space, right? Now I'm going to get into your storage space. Now I'll give you more freedom, right? So there is those considerations, right? But you're absolutely right. You do want to consider weight. Okay, and there's not much that I could take out. So again, have to make your decisions appropriate to. Now, the inverters themselves, they weigh about 40 pounds. The batteries, depending on which brand you go with, are anywhere between 30 and 60 pounds. Okay, panels weigh about 20 pounds each. So on that system, those about 600 pounds. Okay. Yeah, I have a Ford, so we're totally fine. All right, solar panels. This is the cheapest upgrade that you can purchase. They're about $1 a watt. So if you buy a 200 watt panel, expect to pay roughly around $200. 300 watt, $300. 400 watt, $400. Okay? Does everyone know that batteries, you can buy one battery at 12 volts, you could buy two batteries, three batteries, four batteries, and you have to hook those up appropriately. Solar panels work the same way. Okay, you can add solar panels. That's the cool thing. You can start off with one or two, and with some appropriate planning, you can always add more. Now, solar panels, like I said, they actually draw the light, the power from the light, and they produce a DC voltage. The thing is that voltage varies. So I'm just going to give you some information here. You may buy a panel, and then it actually says somewhere on there that this is a 12-volt solar panel. You ever seen those things? That's silly, because no solar panel produces 12 volts. Okay? They produce a voltage. The voltage strength that they produce depends on where the sun is. So let's think about this, right? I have to have light from the sun in order to draw in power. If my solar panel is sitting flat on top of my roof of the RV, and the sun comes up, from the east and sets in the west. So let's say it's 6:30. I have light, morning light coming sideways, right? Here's my panel sitting, this way. I may get light going across the top of it, but I will not get the voltage I need. I don't get the voltage I need until the sun reaches a certain level. That's where I get the voltage of whatever it says. So let's put it this way. A 200 watt panel, which is what we typically have. We either have 100 watt or 200 watt panels. That's typically what they provide, from the OEMs, okay? If you look at the data plate on there, you're gonna have a voltage somewhere between 18 volts and 22 volts, okay? That's what you're gonna get, but you don't get the 18 or 22 until the sun is right up over it. All right, why am I going over all that? Because your battery in the RV is at what voltage? 12 volts, right? Most of you have a 12 volt battery. We're using the solar, the energy from the solar panels to either charge the batteries or take care of some of our demands. Well, if I just told you there's no such thing as a 12 volt solar panel, and the more you put on there, probably the higher the voltage. How do we safely charge our 12 volt batteries if I have a solar panel that can produce 20, 30, 40, 50 volts? I'm glad you asked that question. I will provide the answer. All right? So we have to have a little device in between the solar panel and the battery, and we call that a solar controller. Okay? That solar controller is the magic that takes that high voltage from the solar panels and steps it down to battery voltage. It is like a converter. All of these RVs have converters. What does a converter do? You know it as a battery charger, right? So where does the converter get its power? What type of power does your battery charger receive? AC volts, 120, right? And what do we need to charge the batteries at? 12 volts. So just nominally 12 volts, right? It's not a trick question, so I'm gonna do it again. What do we charge our 12 volt batteries at? 12 volts, okay. So it takes that 120 volts and steps it down, changes it from AC to DC, okay? Well, your solar controller is just like a very good charger. It takes the high voltage from the solar panels and steps it down to battery voltage. Why do I say that? If you want to add solar panels, you have to look at that solar controller, okay? I'm going to just jump over here to the solar controller. Can y'all see that back there? How many of you back there can't see it? I got seats up front. That's all I'm saying. All right. On a solar controller, it's like that converter. It's going to take a certain amount of voltage and step it down. So on this, I just want to show you this, not that you're going to memorize this, because I may ask you a quiz question at the end and you're going to stare at me just like you are now. But this is how we would read that. The first number right here, 250, that tells you the maximum voltage that this thing can receive. So if I buy enough solar panels, I put them in series, I can crank that voltage up to 250 volts. If I connect it to a 12-volt battery, let's do this question again. If I connect it to a 12-volt battery, what is the voltage coming out of this solar controller? All right, 12 volts. Now, just for fun, the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. We can only change its state. I got high voltage, 250 volts. I step it down to 12 volts. Where did the rest of that go? To amperage. And that's what we charge our batteries with, right? So here we have the second number, 70 on this one. This means that this can actually produce amperage up to 70 amps. All right, so I'm just giving you some random information. Let's just hold that for a second, because the question is, how many panels do I need in order to charge my battery? Right? Yes, you asked that. No, you didn't, but you did. You just didn't ask it. How many panels do you need? All right, so here we go. I have well, we all have batteries, right? Has anyone switched over to lithium batteries yet? Some of you have made the leap, some of you haven't. From the OEMs, from the manufacturers, you all have a battery on the RV. Standard sized batteries, they do give us an amp rating, 100 amp hours. That's what their amp rating are, 100 amp hours. If this can charge at 70 amps per hour, if I were to have enough panels sending the power to this solar controller that produces 70 amps per hour, and I have a 100 amp hour battery, how long would it take for the solar controller to charge that one battery? A little over an hour. Okay, but if I had two batteries, same 70 amp solar controller, how long will it take? Closer to 3 hours. If I had four batteries, 70 amps. All right, so you see there's going to be a marriage of how many panels, how many solar controllers, how many batteries, how long does it take to charge all this up? Or the quick and easy answer, how much money do you have? Because I can put a second one and a third one and so on. Now, what does the solar controller do for us again? Takes the high volts, steps it down to battery voltage. The first number it gives us provides us how much maximum voltage this solar controller can handle, and it turns it over to amperage for us, right? Charges the battery or takes care of our loads. So let's go to batteries. Now, what do batteries do for us? Store power. Because when do solar panels work? You got one of two options. Those options are daytime and nighttime. So let me ask you again. When do the solar panels provide power for us? Daytime, because they are solar panels. They are not lunar panels. All right, so the solar panels do nothing for us at night. But we still have needs at night. Don't look at me that way, we all do. Electrical needs.
Right.
There's certain stuff you're going to run, right? Well, since you don't have solar panels, what do you need in order to take care of your needs? What do you need to, yeah, I guess that'll work. Batteries. You need the batteries. They store the power for us and provide them for us, okay? How many batteries do you need? The quick and easy answer is, how much money do you have, right? But you can kind of factor this in, right? You got to figure out what you're running, and then, of course, what do you need? How much battery power do you need in order to run that? For how long? Well, how long do you sleep? Or when does the sun go down? When does the sun come up? Now, I will tell you, all solar systems, to be complete, should have a generator. I mean, generator is the most cost-effective thing that we can do, right? Low entry in purchasing one of those, $400 to $800. It just does take fuel, but most people don't like you running your generator at night, right? I don't know why, some of the best sleep you get is to white noise, right? How many of you, I have to have the air conditioner on even in the winter because I'm used to the noise. How many of you already RV? See this again? All right. Have y'all figured out that you can hear a rabbit jumping through the grass in the middle of the night? But you don't know it's a rabbit. You just know that someone's right outside your window. You know what takes care of that? Turning on the air conditioner, because you don't hear it anymore, right? It just simply goes away. I don't even care if there's a person outside the RV. I only care if they're inside, right? Then they're going to meet Kimber. We'll have a little introduction. But I have to have that air conditioner, so I have to factor, okay, how much power does that take? Well, this is how many batteries I need, okay? But a generator, can you run a generator when it's cloudy outside? Yeah. You may not get the solar output that you would normally get when it's cloudy. So having a generator, could be portable, could be already on the RV itself, right? That helps out in those times. Not only that, but if you're like me and you have 3 ACs on, I have 8 batteries, there's only so many solar panels I have on the roof, right? So I still demand more than what the solar panels can give. So where am I getting my power from? The batteries. If I'm in an RV park or anywhere else, say BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, okay? They allow you to run your generator up to a certain time of night, and then you go into quiet hours, right? Well, if I'm going into quiet hours and my batteries are only at 50% charge, is that very efficient of me? Am I going to make it through the night? No. So even though I have solar panels up there, if my batteries are at 50%, and if I know that, say, quiet hours are at 10 o'clock, couldn't I start my generator, say, at 8 o'clock to charge up my batteries, to get them to 100%, so that way when I go into quiet hours, my batteries are set at 100%. I wake up at 7 a.m., the sun's right here, right? I'm not getting a full charge in those batteries. Those batteries are now pretty low. What can I do then? Turn on the generator again for a couple hours, charge those batteries up, turn it off, and now I can run all day on the solar. So I have an RV that is a toy hauler, has an onboard generator, and I have 2 30-gallon tanks. One for the generator and one for the toys. I don't have toys, I have kids' sequences. So they stay in the toy hauler section. So I have 2 tanks. When I go do FEMA work or something like that, and I have to live off grid to do the work with them, I can run that generator, and I run through 60 gallons of fuel if I live the way I normally do in 3 days. And at $3.50 per gallon, that is a very expensive stay. If I buy a solar system and I still live like I have endless power, and I'm running that generator 4 hours a day, those same 60 gallons will get me over a month. So I get a cost savings just on not running that much fuel. But I'm also prepared whenever the sun doesn't come out, doesn't cooperate, rain or whatnot, I still have the generator. So generator's still pretty good. So what we want to do is look at, does it make sense to buy an extra battery or maybe buy a small generator? All right. So here we have our batteries. We know that they produce a certain amount of voltage. What voltage generally do batteries run at in the RV space? All right, I may ask that at the end, and you're all going to stare at me. Unless there's a free shirt involved. All right. Now, if the batteries produce 12 volts DC and the solar panels produce DC volts, but all of your appliances run AC, what do we need to take that DC and convert it over to AC? The inverter. All right, that's what this is here. It's an inverter. Let me hit that. There we go. This is where we take that and convert it over. Okay. Inverters are rated based on their wattage output. Now, when you are building your system, you can add solar panels as you go. And if you purchase lithium batteries, you can add lithium batteries as you go up to a certain, 3 years. The inverter is kind of a one-time buy. You can't upgrade it. So whenever you begin to make your choices on purchasing your system, you want to go ahead and get the inverter large enough to handle what you're looking for in the future. Does that make sense? All right, so if the average full install, now guys, this is a full install on say a 50 amp RV, you're going to pay about $16,000. Okay, a lot of you don't. You're like, $16,000 on that. Is there a way we can kind of stair step that? Yes. You can start off with 1 or 2 batteries. You can start off with a couple solar panels. But you need to end up with whatever you see yourself doing and buy that from the beginning. Does that make sense? Because you can't upgrade that. You'd have to take it out and put in a new one. Make sense? All right. Now the smallest, if you want to run anything in your RV, anything in the RV, the smallest size solar inverter that you get is 3,000 watts. It can't run everything, but it can run anything. So at 3,000 watts, it can run an air conditioner. It can run the microwave. It can run the microwave and the refrigerator at the same time. But it can't run an air conditioner and the microwave. That's where you need to get a bigger one, right? So if you're looking at being able to run anything, 3,000 watts. Now, some of these are already equipped with something a little bit smaller, maybe a 1,000 watt inverter or 2,000 watt inverter. It can't run anything. It's pretty much sub-paneled off to 1 or 2 appliances, typically the refrigerator or your GFCI outlets, because we know how important it is when you're boondocking to be able to blow dry your hair. I don't know why they put it on the GFCI circuit, but that's what they have done now. Okay? If you want to be able to run anything, 3,000 watts minimum. Okay? So that's kind of what you're looking for in your cost analysis. Now, $16,000 is a huge amount of money. The average overnight stay in an RV park is $45. Your solar panels are pretty much warranted for 25 years. Your batteries, if you buy lithium, they pretty much all of them give you a 10-year warranty. Your inverter, 5 to 6 years. So the question is, for those of you that are crunching numbers, what's your ROI? What's your time frame? When do you get your money back? Well, here's the thing. If the average overnight stay is $45, right? You take your whatever cost, someone's giggling because they were probably already doing it. You take the cost, $16,000, divide that by 45. Do you know what you end up with? How many days? A little over 360 days. 1 year. If you were just to say, hey, we've already traveled, we've done enough of the RV park thing, I could take a year and go boondocking or something like that. I mean, you got to take care of your water and your gray tank and all that, and I'll give you some cool hints on that. But roughly, you'll make your money back just in the RV park savings alone, not counting fuel, 1 year. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. If you see yourself not always staying in an RV park, right? Maybe it's not a full year. Maybe it takes you 2 years, right? Or half a year or 4 years. Your ROI comes back way faster than what your outlay was. Guys, this stuff will last longer than the RV. Now, how many of you are on 1+ RVs? You're on more than 1 year. Or one RV, right? You're on 2 or 3, right? So whenever you put that system in there and you decide to sell it, you list everything that you have in there because someone will buy that a heck of a lot faster. Ooh, I was thinking about getting solar. This one was already put in there. You won't get 100% of your money back, but you will get some of your money back. All right, so I kind of just went over that, just the considerations. I know that you may have specific questions about specific components. So this is where you raise your hands, you get the opportunity to raise your hands, and I will make stuff up. I will give you the answer. Anyone have any questions about the solar system, RV, whichever?
So can you tell us how much, like on a 30 amp, I have a 2005 Four Winds, what would it take cost-wise to put solar to run the air conditioner?
Okay. Without labor, you're looking at about $8,000 or $9,000. Okay. Now here's the thing. I've got a 3,000 watt inverter because that's what you can put in there. They don't make a 3,600 watt. That would be so cool, right? Or even a 4,000 watt. So 3,000 watts. Okay. I'm going to get into some numbers here. Okay. 3,000 watts divided by 12 volts. I've got my watts and I've got my volts. That tells me my amps, 250. When you buy batteries, they give you their discharge rate. The standard 100 amp hour battery you buy, Battleborn or whatever, discharges at 100 amps. In order to be able to run that 3,000 watt inverter at 250 amps, how many batteries do you need just to make sure that you have enough battery strength to run that inverter? 3. So what is the average cost? Let's say it's $1,000 for 3. Each battery is $3,000. The inverter's about $1,200. Solar panels. But here's the thing: your cabling, your disconnects, your breakers. That's going to be about 25% of the cost. So $9,000 with the install is roughly what you're going to look at. I totally made all that up, guys. I'm just joking. No, I made it is.
So you were talking about the lifespan of an inverter. You
Yeah.
said it was 5 years?
Depending on manufacturers, I look at warranty, right? A lot of them will have a warranty 2 to 3 years, but these are solid state. As long as you don't overheat the MOSFETs inside, there's no moving parts.
So if I buy a used RV and it has an and it has a 5-year age on it, how would I know that this inverter is almost done?
All right, almost done. So being solid state, as long as it's not abused, it will continue to run. It may need to be, cleaned out, have someone service it, get all the dust out of it, because that will affect it over time. Other than that, there's no moving parts. I got 2 coils in there, got some MOSFETs. Those are just little relays on crack that are just opening and closing. That's what we protect. We do have fans in there to cool everything down. Having it serviced by someone who can break it open and get all the dust out and everything else is going to extend the life. When I give you those numbers, they're conservative based on, what the warranty is and roughly how long usually afterwards. But we have RVs out there that still have one 2005, and that inverter does just fine.
I got the same question for a solar controller.
Solar controller, same thing, right? Now, solar controllers still have the 2-year warranty, 3-year, depending on which brand. No moving parts in there other than the MOSFETs, right? So with that, I don't even know, as long as you don't hook it up to a battery, 48 volt battery, and it can't handle 48 volts, I don't know, you can toast them. I don't know that you can toast them. All right, solar panels, they do last 25 years, but you will not get the same wattage from them after 25 years. They will denigrate. And so you look at, man, I've got all of this tied up with solar panels, I'm getting half the production. Even though they go 25 years, you may want to go ahead and replace them beforehand.
So for a RV or travel trailer that's listed as solar ready,
Yes.
what is typically included in that and what is not?
All right, solar ready, typically, now here we have our solar panels, right? They run on a wire or a cable down to the basement where the batteries are. When they say that it's solar ready, and more than likely what they've done is just put the wiring in the wall so you don't have to. Okay? Now, sometimes they put the wiring, sometimes they just put an access port up top and down below, and then let you still fish that wire through. Solar ready, so you have to look at the OEM and then basically ask the pointed question. Your solar ready package, does that include the wire in the wall? Okay, because it means different. How many of y'all figured out that when you call an RV park and say, do you have full hookups? Full hookups seems to be a matter of interpretation. All right, good. Same thing with the solar ready.
Is there when you're looking at how many batteries and how much converter and all of that, is there a calculator online somewhere that can figure out?
So Vitron, well, they do it with their solar controller. Okay, now, I mean, I do it by math. I'm sure there's something out there that would put that in there. That'd be kind of cool to do. Look on Vitron. I mean, so they are a brand that, provides solar components. And guys, to me, they're the leading brand out there because they're the most communicative, right? You can communicate with that product. I know they have one to match your solar controller to your panels. Again, it's Watt's Law. right? How many watts are you using? And that's how many watts you need in that battery. But if you have a 100 amp hour battery, right, and it's producing 12 volts, how many watts is in that battery? 100 times 12, 1200 watts, right? So now you look at, well, I can run my air conditioner. It needs 2000 watts. I just need 2 batteries just to run that thing for 1 hour, roughly. How many batteries do you need? How much money do you have?
So you talk about solar ready. With your particular rig, you have lots of panels. What voltage and what gauge wire are you running
All right.
for your wire?
All right, so the relationship, okay? I prefer, do you know a little bit about series and parallel? Series all the way. High voltage, why do we have high voltage now? Transmission, right? 12 volts is a lot safer, a lot easier for us to use, but voltage quantifies pressure. 12 volts is low pressure. Push starting a vehicle. I'm looking at y'all's age. I'm sure at some point y'all had a standard, didn't have a starter, right? All right, you had to push start a car. Low voltage, 12 volts is like one person push starting that car. High voltage is like 10 people push starting that car, right? So we can go further, right? So it is better to put your solar panels in series to increase the voltage. 2 reasons why. One, if I increase the voltage, I could stick with a smaller wire. Solar wire, what we call solar wire, MC4 solar wire, PV cable, the largest gauge they make is 10. So that's 40 amps. So you got to keep your amperage low. High voltage, there is a conversion, a loss factor that we have. There's a power factor. We do lose some to heat, okay? But here's the thing. I need to be for me to charge a battery, and a lithium battery at 14 volts, I need to be sending 16 volts to it, okay? If I'm in series, high voltage, I start charging the batteries. I break the 16 volt thresholds far sooner in the day and far later in the day than if I put everything in series, right? And let's say I was only sending 20 volts. Now the sun, I lose an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening because I put my panels in parallel. Now when I put them in parallel, I increase the possible amps, big thick cable, or multiple streams. Better to go series. You get a longer charge time throughout the day, smaller wire. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Are you 48 volts?
Am I 48 volts? No. 48 volts puts you at caution high voltage range. And if you've ever been sweaty working on a 48 volt system, you feel it, right? And here's the thing, 48 volts, that's what we put in the house. And there's enough components in the house to be able to do that. In the RV space, 24 volts is the sweet spot because they have more components around your 24 volt solar system for RVs. Yes, they do make 48 volts, right? You can go smaller wire. They are more effective cost-wise, but typically 24 volts is the cherry right now.
Is it safe to mix and match different solar brands and components?
Okay. As long as they're different components, they just don't talk to each other. So let's say if you went with a Vitron inverter and a Go Power solar controller, yeah, totally fine, right? Totally fine. But the solar controller doesn't talk to the inverter, so you may have 2 different displays inside the RV. Totally fine. Now, if it's solar panels, all right, you can mix brands, but what's entirely important is that the VOC or the voltage is the same. Right, so if you get something out here and there's 200 watt panels, you'd have to look at the data plate, look for VOC, volts open circuit. If it says 20.4 volts, you need to be less than a volt difference. You could buy another one out there, a different brand or something like that, look at the VOC. That's what you're matching. You can't mix and match batteries. Now you can buy batteries different years, but they have to be the same brand, same type. So, if say Enduro's here, you got an Enduro battery this year, you can buy an Enduro battery next year because the BMS is the same. That's what we're looking for.
Could you speak on the lead acid batteries and the importance of, I think that even needs to be closer, right? When you're adding lead acid batteries?
Okay, so no, you can't add batteries.
Not to
later on.
lithium, but if you have 2 lead acid batteries and then you decide to just run to Walmart and pick up a third one,
Can't do it.
and they explode. Ask me how I know.
Show them again.
What?
She said, how? I said, show them again. All right.
Oh, I've got a picture of it. It doesn't explode like Hiroshima. The whole top blew off and acid went everywhere.
Look at the sides of it. It's all burned off.
Just doesn't grow back.
Here's the thing. Lead acid batteries, when you buy one, or if you have to replace one, you have to replace them all. Lead acid batteries, they have what's called a linear discharge. When you buy them brand new, all right, so they have a charge cycle. Boom. As they get older, that charge cycle gets steeper and steeper and steeper, real quick. If you add a new battery that's got this going on to an old battery that's doing this, the new battery's working harder to make up for the old battery. Lithium, flat discharge, so we can do that. So, no, it's kind of like if your front right tire goes bald, you have to buy 2 tires. You can't put a new one over here and leave the old one over here. This one now has thicker rubber touching the ground. It's going to lift the car up just a little bit higher, which means it's going to wear down faster to get to the same height as this one. It's the same with batteries. The new one's going to work harder to make up for the old one.
So there's a lot of parts to this question. So let's say I'm not converting the AC from 120 volts to 12 volts because it's so expensive, and I want to keep my 120 volt AC, but I use the generator. But now I'm in high altitude, and my generator can just not start up quick enough. Is there a part that I can replace, like the soft starter controller, in the AC, and what would that cost me? And can I then use that AC, that 120 AC, at high altitudes in the generator?
So a soft start takes away the inrush, the amps needed. So yes, if you're running a generator to run that AC, they're about $300 online, and they're absolutely worth it. So here's my question. You said in high altitude doesn't run well. Are you gas, diesel, or propane? Gas. So all it is just fuel to air mixture. Okay? Can't tell you how to get into the governor and kind of adjust it. Yeah, so the startup is what's hard.
And it never really catches.
Yeah. So you can slow down the flow of gas because you have less air, right? And same thing with propane. That's what you do, right? But yes, when you put a soft start on, you take away the big punch from the capacitor, right? 60, 70 amps, right? It builds it up slowly. So if you're running a generator, you're looking at me strange, like, yeah, your air conditioner pulls 60 or 70 amps, in a split second to start it. The soft start takes that away. Definitely worth it. Actually, I did a video 4 years ago to try and bust it because I am cheap. Why would I spend $300 on an air conditioner part? So I followed the rules, did the test and everything else. So freaking impressed with it afterwards. I was like, wow, I like this thing.
Is there anything you need to do special when you convert from lead acid batteries to lithium batteries?
Yes. So lead acid batteries, to charge them, right, we have a charger set to charge the lead acid battery. Lead acid battery fully charged produces 12.7 volts. I need to be 0.5 volts over that to actually charge it up. So your standard converter will charge at 13.2 volts. Lithium, different chemistry altogether. I need to be at 14.6, 14.4 volts in order to charge those fully. So my converter has to be changed out. Battery charger converter. The newer RVs, they're coming equipped with a converter that can either charge lead acid or lithium. You need to do some digging in to find out whether you already have that type of converter in the RV. Because lithium batteries are becoming more and more prevalent, we're beginning to change that, okay? You may have a converter if you go to your breaker panel box, where your breakers and your fuses are. If your converter is there, right down at the bottom, look for a little switch. It'll be labeled LA on one side, LI on the other. That is a lithium capable. LA stands for lead acid, LI stands for lithium ion. You can switch it over. They do have some brands that are auto changing, so you have to go find the converter and then read the data plate. Or you can call your dealership. Well, don't call it a dealership. Call the manufacturer. Look at your build sheet or something like that, right? If you can't find it. They like to hide those things. All right. What other questions? Is it quiz time?
It may be quiz time.
Oh, let me just do this real quick. Why spend the $16,000 plus to build a system? Okay. I still haven't been to the Grand Tetons. I want to go to the Grand Tetons, but if I try and get to an RV park at the Grand Tetons, I'm going to be 30 miles away. And it may be a year that I have to plan that out. Do you know what's at the base there? BLM land. All right. It's getting full because, people are starting to figure that out. But you could pull up there and for 2 weeks, pay nothing. That's where the government kind of fools you. This is your land. But the second part of that song, this is my land too, so they take it back after 2 weeks. So you just have to move to another one. All right. Same thing. Texas, we've got 60 miles of shoreline that you can foolishly park your RV in the sand if you want. Wake up, there's the water. Actually, wake up, there's the water. Right? Go to bed, the water's over there. All right. So it's getting out of RV parks. And I am not saying RV parks are bad. I'm just saying it opens the doors to where you can RV. And that's hard to put a price tag on.